Rapid Moto news from around the world. Let's get into it with what KTM said in response to Sexton's magnificent crash. He usually has these magnificent crashes, these simple mistakes, that's my keyword is mistakes, cause these epic catastrophes when it comes to points and whatever. And Ian Harrison, with team manager at KTM, responds, and we'll go over it here. And it somewhere lies in the middle between, is it a bike malfunction? Is it a mechanical? Was it Sexton's fault? It's kind of tiptoeing in this area. It's lovely PR. It's great, but here, let's see what he says. After a remarkable Moto1 victory, following a post-race debrief, KTM Racing has released a statement. Said that after inspecting the bike on Saturday evening and reviewing the bike data, we now have a clear understanding of what led up to Chase's crash in Moto2 at Ironman. I want to clarify that it was neither rider nor mechanical error. Okay, it's important that he says that. Initially, we thought it was a front brake issue, but now we know that debris got into the rear brake system, preventing Chase from activating the rear brake that forced him to reduce his speeds using only the front brake, which we can also see from the bike data that led up to the last jump on the last lap, which he hit the jump at a higher rate in any other lap during the day. The issue in turn caused Chase to crash. The bike landed on the right side, which then caused the front brake lever to get packed with mud and activate. Chase was unable to continue because of this. So from this statement, my analysis from yesterday still stands. I still believe that it was a Sexton mistake, and I'll go over some of the comments, but the link to that is somewhere on the left or right of the screen, so if you want to watch that, which you should, it's damn good analysis, we'll go over it there. However, based on that statement, I want to come over two things, okay? Boom, we see that the rear wheel is spinning, okay? So sometimes what happens is, I totally think it's plausible that because of how deep Ironman was, that mud got on the rear brake and the rotor, and he lost, maybe overheated something, so he didn't have access to the rear brake throughout the entire moto, or what led up to the crash. But it doesn't negate what happened with the front wheel. These are giant gyros, and when they are messed up, it's a completely different animal, especially that front wheel. Go, I dare you, go try it over a jump next time you're riding your dirt bike. Hit that front brake. Guarantee you will crash, okay? So don't do that. It's going to make the wheel all funky, and then the air is going to catch it, and it's going to do something like it did here. This was the dead giveaway, okay? And them saying that the issue didn't happen until right here when he landed, boom, and that bike lands and gets packed with mud on the front brake. What was interesting is Sexton picked the motorcycle up, but then he dropped the motorcycle off on the side of the track. I mean, he couldn't really get it to the mechanics area, but if he would have, the mechanics could have saw it, and he would have been able to finish the race and make some decent points out of it. That's somewhat of the hypothetical, the speculation here, is if you would have been able to get the bike to the mechanics, they would have been able to say, hey, no, there's really nothing wrong with the front brake because it's got that rotor cover on it. Hey, I'm sorry you don't have a rear brake, but just make some points. This guy could have definitely made a couple points, get inside the top 20 if they cleared the mud out of the front brake lever, because that is what they say, okay? But I will go back to what they said as far as the bike data, that he left the jump on that lap was at a much higher speed than any other lap, which caused the crash, which is a funny way of saying that, yes, it was Chase's mishap that caused the mistake. He hauled butt, hit that jump at a higher rate of speed, hit the front brake. The front brake was still locked in the air, which is his mistake, and it caused the crash, okay? So if I go to some of my comments, which, by the way, make sure you go ahead and look at this video. Wheel was locked up coming on the face of the jump. This is an elite level rider. He might tuck the front wheel every now and then, but this was not on him. This is the thing, is these guys are so fast. They ride these motorcycles at such a high rate of speed that is astronomically just wild that they are able to control these motorcycles, that sometimes they get ahead of themselves. And unfortunately, Chase is one of those riders that gets ahead of himself. So truthfully, the guy to be like almost unstoppable, all he needs is to slow down to go fast. I know that sounds ridiculous, but that is my analysis, my assumption, because I've watched him ride for so many years and see how talented he is and see the mistakes that lead up to him not winning championships or motos or race wins. And to me, it's something that is kind of avoidable. Yes, you can go back to this and say that, hey, his rear brake, he didn't have it, so he was using the front. Yes, but that still doesn't answer why he had the front brake on when he left the jump. Okay, yes, he hit the jump at a higher rate of speed, but if you let go of the brakes, that wouldn't have happened. Because if I go back to literally the video footage, okay, they say that he just hit the jump at a higher rate of speed. Therefore, it would not have caused that front brake to still be locked. Okay, but if you do tap that front brake in the air, it doesn't matter if you let go of it in the air. That front wheel is still going to stay locked. It might move a little bit, but more or less, it's just going to do exactly this. It's going to mess up everything. That's why when you tap a rider in the air, you see motorcycles do all this weird mumbo jumbo stuff. Same thing when you tap the rear brake, why it goes down. Anyway, I'm kind of digressing, but to me, my analysis sticks, and I just love the PR statement that basically makes it sound like it was unavoidable of what happened. It'll be interesting to see if this shenanigans continues with Kawasaki as well, because I have also heard that Sexton can be difficult to work with, which isn't necessarily a fault on him because he is one of the fastest guys in the world. Yeah, he's picky. He wants stuff to be perfect, right? That's totally understandable. Back to just some of my comments, because comments are always fun to read. Front brake was locked coming off the face of the jump. Not one top 10 rider would be holding the brake down like that. Come on, man. They don't hold the brake while scrubbing. Yeah, they don't want to. And if they do, they crash. There we go. Yeah, the wheel was definitely locked up on the face of the jump. So much to say. You can say so much with debris and whatnot, but they literally had a statement saying that the rear brake was the cause. And he hit the jump faster. And then after he crashed, it was packed with mud by the front brake lever, not anything to do with the rotor or the wheel. So hypothetically, if he would have gotten in the mechanics area, he would have been able to continue the race. Moving on. And then you have the wild penalty that came by the AMA for Jett Lawrence at Ironman, which our boys at 23 Media got a perfect view of Jeremy Hand basically Dukesing, making Jett flinch, and he pushes the gate forward, and Jett honestly responds saying, ups and downs today, I need to try some new things with my stomach because I've been struggling to digest food between motos, which is interesting. That's right there. There's a lot to unpack there because are you nervous? I mean, solid foods. Coach, I wonder what Coach is going to say. He'll probably comment on this as well because, you know, you hear a lot of times when guys don't really digest a whole lot of food. McGrath said that he never really ate anything, you know, so that is kind of interesting that maybe there's lack of something there. I think the tablets I took kept digesting everything so quickly that halfway I had no energy. A bit of a bummer. That is all wild, right? That he's letting this stuff be heard, that he's having some massive digestion there. I know there's probably a lot of conspiracy theorists out there that could run with that information, but right there, you know, take some gels. I don't know. There's something bigger going on with Jett's stomach. Obviously, there was an incident in the first moto, which in my mind is kind of silly because I feel like the AMA has double standards where we've seen guys cutting the track and they don't really do anything. And I guess is something you have to deal with, but they might need to get better at realizing who they need to penalize. I came back and won the second moto, so we'll leave it at that. Well said. I do think a penalty was deserved, but I think that one was too harsh. Again, I've said it on my podcast and the analysis yesterday that if there was radios, come into the pits, take a 10-second stop, boom, go about your race. I think that would have been justified. Ken Roczen is racing Unadilla, and he posted something on his Instagram, which was just...
Men are not meant to be dominant. So it's okay to be weak.
And then he goes in and puts Goggins. Kenny is definitely somebody that I consider to be right up there with as far as work effort to be like a David's Goggins. This dude has to put in the work. He puts in the work. So I want to know what people think in the comments down below, how well he's going to do at Unadilla. He's going to be on his 450, so I'm straight up saying podium, at least in one moto, right? That's being a Kenny fan, because there's lots of guys with the Lawrence brothers, with Sexton, with Tomac. There's some good riders here. Is he going to be able to hit the podium? I do believe he's going to. We have the Ducati hitting showroom floors right now for $27,000. I'm kidding, but close. You know, it's like 15 to 20 grand for these darn things. I'd love to ride one. If anyone has already ridden one, let me know what you think down below. Is it going to be kind of like a Triumph? I think it's going to be totally different than a Triumph. Ridden those, and those things are kind of like, I don't know, I would say better than the Suzuki, but worse than the Cowie. That's saying something, because here we've got Vital. Yet again, they sat down and talked with Prado, and here we'll go over it.
Totally different from what I was running, and it helped a lot, the response to the engine and stuff, and the feeling of the frame. So
he basically just says that he's racing a completely different motorcycle, and how well did he do at Ironman? Considerably better. So again, my analysis, I believe Styx was saying that it's not so much his skill level, but the motorcycle is holding him back, which then is leaking into his confidence, because if you saw my Jeff Emick podcast, we talked a lot about how racing is so mental. You got to be on your game, and that's why some of these guys excel, like the Degans of the world, because they are just so incredibly confident. So make sure you hit that as well. That'll probably be somewhere right around here. But that is this week in Moto from around the world. As always, keep it WFO. Bra-da-da-da-da-da.